Hi and welcome to a cEDH tournament gameplay video. This is a match from Phanteon, an online webcam tournament in Europe time zone. The starting player for this match is on Dihada, Binder of Wills. This is a Mardu deck focused around Breach with Flicker. Remove target non-token permanent from the game, then return it to play under its owner's control. And with Underworld Breach and Dihada, together with Flicker, you can basically flicker and reuse Dihada over and over to fuel more of your graveyard. The second player in turn order is on Tymna and Kraum, played by Tymna, or also known as Ignacy. This build is exactly as you expected: Ad Nauseam, Underworld Breach, the One Ring, Brain Freeze and Fastest Oracle Consult. Third player in turn order is on Rograkh Silas, also playing that Ad Nauseam, Underworld Breach, including a Necropotence, and then of course Fastest Oracle, but he's also playing Talion the Kindly Lord as an mid-range option. And then we have Kenrith, the Returned King. When you play Kenrith, you have a lot of different options. He's including Teferi with Displacer Kitten and Dockside Extortionist, as well the package of Mayhem Devil, Dockside, Kenrith. He's playing Emil and Dockside, as well as Underworld Breach and Necropotence. And with his Necropotence he has Final Fortune and Born Upon a Wind. He is not playing Ad Nauseam though. And with that, let's start this match. Still in the mulligan, Kraum and Tymna, Ignacy, the Tymna player, is mulliganing down to 4. Oh no, he's actually going down to 3 cards. This might be a very tough game for him. But all you really need is just a Mana Crypt, land, Rhystic Study, and yeah, that's all you need. And he's staying on 3 cards, putting 4 to the bottom. A true worshipper of the Church of Pontus. Now we have a pre-game effect of the Rograkh Silas, last player in the turn order, Gemstone Caverns. Game begins, Dihada draws for turn. Scalding Tarn, finding a plateau, red-white land, and then he will play Gamble. Gamble resolves, he finds a card. He's discarding card number 6, a Plains. But then he is passing the turn, shuffling his library. We're playing a Bloodstained Mire, and passing the turn. Kenrith draws a card for turn, plays a Savannah, and pass. In the end step, we're casting a Mystical Tutor with the use of Gemstone Caverns. He will find a Dark Ritual, and everyone is saying Adnos, Adnos, Adnos. He draws the Dark Ritual for turn, plays a Volcanic Island. I'm gonna guess this is going to be a Rhystic Study. He's casting Dark Ritual. No, I was wrong. Talion, which is in the end kinda similar. It's a value engine in the end, similar to Rhystic Study. Huh, mid-range Rograkh Silas. He's choosing the value of number 2. So Psych Rift, Phasas, Underworld Breach, Demonic Tutor, Tainted Pact, Talismans, Signets, those will trigger. The turn goes to Dihada's turn 2, playing a land drop. And speaking of talismans, here we have one, triggering Talion, giving a card draw. And then we pass. And then we fetch. He's finding a plateau, red, white land, and using that to cast an Enlightened Tutor in the end step. I'm guessing we're gonna find Rhystic Study or Mystic Remora. Considering he mulliganed down to 3 cards, he might lack the mana to Rhystic Study, so I'm guessing it's gonna be a Mystic Remora. It's a good card to try to come back into this game. And yeah, there is the Mystic Remora. That's his finding with the Enlightened Tutor. So he draws the Remora, plays an Underground Sea, and Remora. So turn goes to Kenrith, plays a City of Brass, and pass. The Talion player draws a card for turn. Well, it's the Rograkh Silas player, but this is more of like a Talion player. He's dashing in Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. He's attacking with his Talion and Rograkh at Gingish, the Dihada player, flipping a Cabal Ritual and generating a treasure. He will go to his end step and return Ragavan back to his hand, and Cabal Ritual stays in permanent exile. Dihada untaps, draws a card. He's exiling a Simian Spirit Guide for 1 red mana, and casts Dihada, Binder of Wills, giving a card draw to Mystic Remora, Ignacy. Minus, straight away, flipping 4 cards into the graveyard, and generating 4 treasures. Then he's casting a spell that reads, if you played another white spell this turn, you may cast this for free, and it's destroying all enchantments, which is only going to destroy Mystic Remora and destroy Ignacy's board state, giving a card draw to it at the very least. And he will respond with a Force of Negation, pitching Chain of Vapor, protecting his Mystic Remora against the Destroy All Enchantments spell. And then Dihada is passing the turn. Probably gonna lose that Dihada to board states, potentially. Ignacy pays for fish, draws a card, and pass. Kenrith draws a card, Tarnished Citadel, land drop. Casting Wishclaw Talisman, triggering Mystic Remora, giving a card draw, triggering Talion, also giving away a card draw and losing 2 life. And then he passes the turn. We are casting Ragavan again, but this time without dash. He's sacrificing his treasure to cast his own Wishclaw, giving away a card draw for Mystic Remora. He then kills Dihada with a Talion, sending Dihada back to command zone. And then pass the turn. Dihada untaps, draws a card, and here we go! 6 mana to cast a Bolas Citadel, giving a card draw to Mystic Remora. And the big artifact City resolves. He now gets to look at the top card of his library. He plays Luxury Suite from his hand. And then for 2 mana he plays Dockside, triggering Talion, losing 2 life. Life is actually quite important here right now for him. He gets a total of 3 treasures. Then, from the top of his library, he's casting Burnt Offering. As an additional cost, sacrifice a creature, giving a card draw to Mystic Remora here. From this, he gets 2 black mana. And from 3 mana, he casts Necropotence from his hand, giving a card draw to the Mystic Remora again. This is a very good setup together with the Bolas Citadel, because if there's anything on top of his library that he can't cast because of, example, a land, or it's just a little bit too expensive for his life, he can just pay 1 life with Necropotence and send it away, which will create a new card on top of his library. So now all we need to do is just dig until we find Aetherflux Reservoir. Or just cast Imperial Seal to put Aetherflux Reservoir on top of his library. But here we also give a card draw to Ignacy, who pass. Everyone pass, and Imperial Seal wins, not wins, but is going to set up for a win. But it resolves. But the team non-Dihada really needs to deal with this, or he is going to laser cannon them to death. He finds a card, shuffles his library, and puts the card on top of his library. And casts a Grand Abolisher. I actually like this because during his executing of this combo, basically, he is going to fuel the Mystic Remora, and this is making sure that whatever cards the Mystic Remora draws into, it won't be able to affect him. Also, by the way, including that Talion will also draw cards. However, in response, we have a Silence, which is a perfect interaction versus this actually. But in response, he will exile a card with Necropotence, because what he can do here is basically dig until he finds a counterspell on top of his library and use that to counterspell the Silence. It's just kinda interesting how he is able to find interaction. And yeah, here we go. He casts a Vamp Tutor from the top of his library that he dug forward with from his Necropotence, giving a card draw to the Heuristic Study. But in response, we have a Mental Misstep from the Mystic Remora Ignacy that he probably drew into from all the triggers that he's been generating. He's paying 2 life to cast Soul Partition from the top of his library, trying to remove the Mystic Remora. He keeps exiling cards from the Necro. He's paying 1 life to cast Red Elemental Blast targeting Mental Misstep. So Red Elemental Blast destroys the Mental Misstep and Vamp Tutor resolves, finding something that will deal with Silence. Or what he also could do is just put a Final Fortune on top of his library and pay 2 life and cast that one for free. Considering that he's been using Necropotence quite a lot, finding Final Fortune here is actually a genius move, because he's gonna put all the cards he's been exiling with Necro. Yeah, there we go, Final Fortune on the top of his library, and paying 2 life to cast it, also losing 2 life to the Talion. This means that ultimately Silence will resolve, but the Grand Abolisher will also resolve. Everyone pass and Final Fortune resolves. Silence resolves, and then Grand Abolisher resolves. And he's at 8 life remaining. He could potentially die casting the wrong Seems to 2 spells and die to Talion. He's untapping. The first thing he will do on his turn is cast Praetor's Grasp, paying 3 life from the top of his library, targeting the Rograkh player. And he grabs Undual Breach. You can clearly see that white Breach card there on his board state. Now Breach is still currently in exile. From the top of his library he's casting a Mana Vault by paying 1 life. He plays an Ancient Tomb land drop for a turn from the top of his library. Now he has a lot of mana, but he is lacking life. But then he's casting the Underworld Breach. From the grave he's casting Red Elemental Blast, exiling 3 cards, killing Talion. He's using the Talisman, losing 1 life, going down to 1, casting Gamble. From the graveyard, utilizing the ultimate power of Underworld Breach. But there's a problem here. Necropotence is a little bit annoying with Gamble. You see, whenever you discard a card, regardless of however you discard it, it will go into exile. So he's randomly discarding his Jeweled Lotus to his exile, and yeah, That's sad, because Jewel Lotus was the card he found with Gamble. He's now casting Angel's Grace from his graveyard. This is gonna actually make him survive, because he's going to die, or Final Fortune is gonna make him lose the game, but with Angel's Grace, he will stick around. And because of that, he could actually cast Final Fortune again. But after going through a few motions, the thing that's gonna be basically the outcome, he's looking at the top card of his library, nothing he can actually use, he has 1 life left. He doesn't get to draw any cards because of Necropotence. So even if he actually does this, he's stuck. Because with Necro in play, Underwood Breach gone, having an extra turn, no card draw, and 1 life remaining, he gets nowhere. So he concedes. In the end, Talion drew him to a little bit too low for him to actually win through with his entire Bolas combo. So the turn goes to Ignacy, who untaps. And now has a really high hand from that Mystic Remora. Hard to think about considering he mulliganed down to 3, but, well, turn 2 Remora can pull you back into the game. Land drop, Exotic Orchard. We're casting a Demonic Tutor, finding a card, and casts Underworld Breach. Follows up with an Lion's Eye Diamond. And yeah, it's a pretty big hand, so it should be a pretty big graveyard. Cracks the Lion's Eye Diamond, and showcasing his hand. No one has an interaction for this. No one is going to be able to stop this. He reveals his intent of winning with Lion's Eye Diamond, and Underworld Breach, and Brain Freeze. So it was a very close win for Dihada, but Silence, Talion, Mental Misstep made it tricky for him to actually get there, and an accident with that gamble. So in the end, Ignacy, Tymna, kraum with Underworld Breach wins!